I'm excited to get into this show with you. FI, what does that mean? It means your financial independence number, or in this case, financial independence numbers. So we'll start the conversation this morning with what is financial independence? And if you look up financial independence, it's simply having enough income to cover all of your expenses. Wikipedia defines financial independence, FI, as financial independence is the status of having enough income from investments, passive businesses, or real estate, etc., to pay for one's reasonable living expenses for the rest of one's life without having to rely on formal employment. And so what are the numbers that matter, as we kind of pull apart this idea of financial independence? They said reasonable living expenses, enough income, and then one's life. So if we really take this definition of what is financial independence and break it down into those three pieces, reasonable living expenses, enough income, and then one's life. So I call reasonable living expenses essential expenses, enough income. So how much income can we generate from investments, real estate, businesses, your blog, your affiliate income? A lot of these guys that I read about that are retiring really early, really what they're retiring from is having to show up to a job where they're having to work from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m., or sometimes it's from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. In the world that we live in today, the COVID world where people are working harder than ever, just many of them are working from home. In fact, we're seeing productivity numbers going through the roof as people have more ability to work from home, which I don't know that is necessarily a good thing. One of the things I enjoyed about coming back to the office was the boundary between work and home, which I kind of need because I'm one of those people that can work too much. But the other one is one's life. So how long are you going to live? We've talked about this in the past, but this is an important number that you need to have some idea of. Obviously, nobody knows for sure how long any of us are going to live, but we want to make some estimates about what we think might be reasonable. So I want to give you today some numbers, some ways that you can do some calculations at home or on the back of a napkin if you're sitting down in a coffee shop, and just start to pencil out, do you have these financial independence numbers? These rules of thumb that exist? And the first one, in order to calculate your financial independence number, there's going to be three different things that I want you to be thinking about. Number one, I want you to add up all of the guaranteed income at the time of retirement. So maybe you're going to retire at age 65, or maybe it's going to be 60. But at the time of retirement, I want you to add up all of your guaranteed income. So any pension income that you're going to have, any Social Security income that you're going to have. If you have real estate, rental properties that produce passive income for you, I wouldn't necessarily say real estate's passive, because most people I know that own real estate are more like business owners, and that they're active to some degree in the ownership of those properties. But what we want to understand is, what is the income that you feel very strongly about that's going to be somewhat guaranteed? Now, real estate, of course, is going to be one of those income sources that's not guaranteed, but it tends to be pretty stable for a lot of the people that we know that own rental properties. So maybe you want to include that number, maybe you don't. Maybe you only want to include pension and Social Security. But I wanted you to add all of that up. So for example, let's say you're going to be retiring. You're going to have, let's say the husband's Social Security is going to be $2,500 per month. The wife's Social Security is going to be $1,500 per month. So you have $4,000 per month of income, and then we want to annualize that number. So we're going to take $4,000 a month of Social Security, and we're going to multiply it by 12. That tells us that in this particular instance, we've got $48,000 per year of guaranteed income coming from Social Security at the time of retirement. So we've got an annualized number. Now, if you haven't done this exercise, visit mysocialsecurity.gov and find out the statement that you get every year. How much Social Security are you going to have between you and your spouse? It's an important number. The next thing that I want you to do is I want you to add up all of the liquid assets that you have available to fund retirement. So not just your 401k and your IRA and your Roth, but I also want you to include brokerage accounts, money market accounts, bank accounts, just any place where you have liquid assets that can be used to help supplement your retirement income. So if you have $1 million, multiply it by 0.035, and that will tell you that $35,000 is how much income we might be able to generate from that portfolio, assuming a 3.5% withdrawal rate. So obviously, if you're more comfortable with a 4% withdrawal rate, we could say let's multiply it by 4%. But whatever the amount of money is that you've saved, if you've saved $1 million, multiply it by 0.035, 3.5%, and that would tell us that you can take $35,000 per year of income out of those accounts. Then the next thing I want you to do is, now that you've added up all of your guaranteed income, so let's say, remember in this scenario, we're going to say the husband and wife have $48,000 a year of guaranteed income. Then I want you to add together the $35,000 that we think we can take from your $1 million, assuming a 3.5% withdrawal rate. So that's $48,000 plus the $35,000 gives us an $83,000 income number. And then finally, we want to take our $83,000 and we want to divide it by our essential expenses. So if you add up all of your reasonable living expenses, your essential expenses, the money that you need to just, put food on the table, pay for the electricity, pay for your car insurance, whatever you consider to be reasonable essential expenses, take income and divide it into your essential expenses. So if, for example, we have $48,000 of Social Security, $35,000 from investments, that gives us $83,000. We take that $83,000 and divide it into $85,000. So we'll say in this case, essential expenses are $85,000. That gives us 98%. We're 98% funded toward financial independence. Now, if you have $83,000 of income and your essential expenses are only $75,000, you would take $83,000 divided by $75,000. That would give us 111% funded for financial independence. So that is the first number that we want to give you to be able to work on is what's your FI number. Now, for some of you, you want to retire early. And for those of you that are retiring early, you're probably familiar with the FIRE community, Financially Independent Retired Early. Now, retiring early for different people means different things. Like I say, a lot of the guys I've met that say that they're retired at 45 years old, they may be retired from their computer programming gig that they're burned out on, or maybe they're a physician that's burned out from, working 15 hours a day, or whatever the case may be. But what I find is a lot of times these guys have alternative side hustles. They have some kind of business that's generating passive income for them. And so they're retired maybe from the job that they find stressful, only to have income coming in from some other type of resource. Okay, here's another number that I want to give you to be able to calculate your FI, your financial independence. And you may remember me talking about this a couple episodes ago. It's called the Sound Retirement Income Score. So part of the reason, and one of the things you'll hear me say a lot, is that retirement is all about cash flow. It is your income that's going to determine your lifestyle in retirement. The more secure that income is, the more confident that you have, that you know that your income is going to surpass your expenses on a monthly basis, on an annual basis, the less you have to worry about what the stock market's doing. In fact, I would have to tell you that of all of we serve a lot of people, but the people that I find that have the highest quality of life are the people that have the most guaranteed income. So in many instances, these are either retired teachers or retired airline pilots that have really good pensions, or they're federal employees, because what many of these people have is they have Social Security and they have some really good guaranteed pension income coming in. And those are the people that they just, in many cases, they have more income coming in retirement than they did during their working years, and their expenses drop way down because they're not having to be, buying lunch and buying clothes all the time. But anyways, the Sound Retirement Income Score is just to see how much confidence you can have on your cash flow. So the way that you want to do this, simply take all of your guaranteed income. So in this example, remember we said that their guaranteed income was $48,000 a year from Social Security, and divide that into your essential expenses.